Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete, and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Northman from 2022. From visionary director Robert Eggers comes The Northman, an action-filled epic that follows a young Viking prince on his quest to avenge his father's murder. So, as I just said, it's directed by Robert Eggers, who has won critical acclaim for things like The Witch and also The Lighthouse, and who started his career actually as a production designer. He co-wrote this film with Sjon, who is probably bad pronunciation there, but S-J-O-N, I think it's Sjon, the Icelandic author who's also written films Lamb and Dancer in the Dark previously as well. It's a really good cast in this movie. You've got Alexander Skarsgård from True Blood, Tarzan and Godzilla vs. Kong, Nicole Kidman from BMX Bandits and lots of other things, who needs no introduction really, Klaus Bang from Dracula and the Girl in the Spider's Web, Ethan Hawke from Training Day and most recently in Moon Knight, Anna Taylor-Joy from The Witch, previously with Robert Eggers, and also the Netflix series Queen's Gambit, William Dafoe from The Lighthouse, also with director Robert Eggers, and also loads of things like Spider-Man, John Wick, Björk, the Icelandic singer, formerly of the band The Sugar Cubes, who's also been in films Dancer in the Dark, written by Sjon, and Pret-a-Porter, and someone I didn't expect him in this movie, Hafthor Julius Bjornsson. I know him as the former World's Strongest Man, and most recently he had a boxing match against Eddie Hall, but of course he was also the Mountain in Game of Thrones, and he's been in other films including Kickboxer Retaliation. Also, you do get brief extended cameos from Kate Dickie and Ralph Ineson, both, of course, from The Witch as well. So Eggers has obviously got people that he likes to work with. So, what is The Northman like? Imagine a darker, more brooding, art house version of the first Arnie Conan film, and you'll have a reasonable idea what this movie is like. Now, at first I thought some of the artier moments can derail the film in much the same way as in something like The Green Knight. But once this film settles into its stride, it finds a workable balance between story and the impressive visuals. And it shows a level of brutality that makes things like Vikings or The Last Kingdom seem like children's stories. At times this does feel very close to The Witch, with unsettling imagery, haunting macabre darkness and extreme close-ups. I haven't seen The Lighthouse, but I have seen The Witch, and it did remind me of that a lot. I would think even if you hadn't told me, I'd have known it was the same director and the same kind of visual storytelling techniques. Now, the film balances the period side of the movie with a more dreamlike, almost supernatural element, and you can choose, I guess, as the audience, whether to believe in that supernatural side, or you can just think of it as the belief system that informs the characters, their superstitions that makes them do what they want to do in this story. Now, at times, The Northman is genuinely creepy, and it offers a much more gritty and dirty take on Viking life than the TV shows I mentioned earlier. The camera work is excellent, and the action is enthralling, but it's the lead actor who holds the whole thing together for me. Skarsgård's performance is exceptional. He's mesmerising in every frame he's on camera. There's a very physical, animalistic quality to this role. Much like Conan, he says little and allows his physical presence to show rather than tell. But that actually works really well with the story. He almost shapeshifts at times, changing his stance and size as needed, just like an animal, and just like the Viking berserker he is. Although the film touches on the battle with those who are turning to Christianity, I like that this was actually set in the north. This is not a Viking tale about an invasion of Britain like so many others. That makes it more like a Nordic saga rather than just a typical feature film that happens to have Vikings in it. Now, The Witch showed that Eggers could do elevated genre work in the horror space to great effect, and here he lends similar expressionistic work to the well-trodden revenge film motif. Now, I've seen comparisons between this film and Gladiator, and there are some parallels, but for me, Conan is definitely a closer match, or the more brutal spaghetti westerns even. Essentially, the story is about what your life is like if your entire being is consumed with revenge. Who are you if that's all that defines you? Now, the only thing that kind of held this back for me, apart from occasionally when it leant slightly too far into the mystical, is some of the casting. Now, for me, Nicole Kidman felt too big a star. where I could just about cope with Ethan Hawke and William Dafoe with their little Scandinavian accents, she's on screen so much that it just felt overtly Hollywood, especially as, not being rude, her plastic surgery that she's had over the years has become so noticeable. That kind of took you out of the period you're supposed to be watching. Now, the two extended cameos of the two other main performers from The Witch, that felt to me like pure stunt casting. Now, I get they're talented, they're both brilliant actors, and I understand they've worked with the director before, but again, that kind of threw me off. I'm like, oh, it's Nicole Kidman, oh, it's the two people from The Witch, and suddenly, a film that's so engrossing, so immersive, you're suddenly back into, oh, I'm watching a movie. And I don't like, when I'm really enjoying something, I don't want to think I'm watching a movie, I want to be carried away by the story. And to be honest, I would have been happier if they'd committed to an all-Scandinavian cast, because the smattering of British and Hollywood stars that were cast took me out of the film and stole away some of the visceral authenticity that the film had earned elsewhere. But maybe that was unrealistic. Perhaps you couldn't get such an epic film made on such a high budget level without some kind of names and face recognition in your cast to basically get it out of the door, to make people go and watch it. Overall, The Northman is dark, and it's a difficult watch at times, but it says so much about the human condition underneath all the showy visual stuff. Now, this film won't be for everyone, but if you like bold filmmaking and genre stories that are taken into slightly more highbrow territory, there's a lot to like here. It's the kind of film that lingers with you, which has become rare as franchises has dominated our cinema landscape for a number of years. Whatever else it made me think is I'll always watch a Robert Eggers film. I need to catch up with The Lighthouse, and I'll watch anything he does, because true kind of auteur voices in the world of film are rare these days. Also, Alexander Skarsgård, an actor I'd more or less written off or kind of ignored in the past. Something about this performance is very special, and it makes me want to watch more things with him in. So with all that considered, I'm going to give The Northman 4 bags of action out of 5. Have you seen The Northman? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside our full-length podcast. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to get notifications. Bags of Action will always be free, but if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that at our Ko-fi page.